What is going on, everyone? It's OxxyOG, and today we are doing the first video from the new setup. Uh, Still getting things adjusted, still getting my lighting worked out and everything, but we are getting settled in so I can start getting back to making some videos. I know it's been a couple days or a week or so. Sorry for the lack of uploads, but they released a lot of information on Midnight, on Fury, on Warrior as a class, and on some overall changes. So I want to do a deeper dive into the deep dive and kind of go over the blue post, give my first impression. I have not read too much about it, only a little bits and pieces. So I wanted to just give you guys my take. Just wanted to give a couple disclaimers first before we get in. Number one, there will be chapters throughout the video, so if something is irrelevant to you or you already know about it or you just don't care, you can skip to a topic in the chapters that is relevant to you that you care about. So that's number one. Number two, I never claimed to be an expert. I've played Fury for years and I love Fury, but I'm not like a theory crafter or anything. I just like to give my take on what I see, and I could be completely wrong about something or misunderstand something, and that would be totally normal for me. So feel free to always educate me in the comments if there's something I get wrong. But on top of that, this is just kind of like my opinion on what they've announced. And then lastly, just that this is very early testing. So we are in alpha and we still have like 4 months until release. So these are like the numbers haven't been tuned. These are just like directional changes. Like, hey, this is the direction that we want Fury or Warrior or whatever to go in. And I'm going to comment on that. But just know that things that I comment on, they could change tomorrow. Like, I could upload this video and then tomorrow everything's different because they just decided it wasn't going to work out like that. So keep that in mind and just take everything I say with a grain of salt because I just find it fun to talk about the changes and just see where we think things are going. So let's get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is something that is a little bit more overarching. So I want to just talk about the Mythic Plus dungeons very quickly. They released the rotation for season one. We have 4 new Midnight dungeons: the Magister's Terrace, Mycera Caverns, Nexus Point Zenith, and Windrunner Spire. So those are our 4 new Midnight dungeons. With how the War Within dungeons were, I have high hopes for and how Ecodome Aldani was. Oh my gosh, I actually love that dungeon. I have high hopes for these Midnight dungeons. I think they're going to be fantastic. So looking forward to that big time. No clue anything about them. I don't think much has been released, if anything, just the names. So that's cool. We have Algathar Academy coming back. So for those of you that played Dragonflight, I'm sure you remember this one. There's massive amounts of ads for damage as Fury. I loved using Odin's Fury on the tree area. It's like one of the bosses. Huge ad packs. Very fun dungeon. I always loved it. And it's kind of like a silly dungeon too. So Algathar Academy coming back. You got the Seat of the Triumvirate. I don't know much of anything about this dungeon. It's from Legion, and I am excited to let myself be surprised. I'm not going to do too much digging because I like surprises and I like to go into things blind. So I don't know much about that, but I know people love Legion in general, so I'm just going to guess that this is a good dungeon. Skyreach, I do know from doing like time walking and stuff, and I also believe that this was like the gold farm dungeon. I want to say, and it seems like a lot of fun. Like I've run it in obviously lower level content, and it was fun. I'm excited to see what they do with it for Mythic Plus. And then you have the Pit of Sauron from Wrath of the Lich King. I know nothing about this dungeon either. I did ask some friends that played Wrath, like in its live, how it was, and they said it's just a really cool dungeon with good lore and stuff like that. So I'm excited to give that dungeon a try too and see what they do with an older dungeon being brought back. That's the Mythic Plus rotation. Now I want to get into the Warrior notes. I am going to be skipping over like anything arms and prot related because even though I may not even have much of a say on Fury stuff because like I said, I'm not an expert, but I've played it for a while so I can comment on it a bit. Arms and prot, I don't want to misrepresent the changes or the direction that they're pushing them, so I'm going to let someone else take that mantle and I'm just going to talk about Fury here. So, for Warrior, Mountain Thane is getting the Thunderblast damage increased by 100%, most likely to compensate for losing the 4-set from the War Within Season 3 that like basically gave us those huge Thunderblast procs. So that's just getting a flat damage increase. And then Slayer is getting Opportunist is now going to stack 2 times as one of the talents in the Keystone talent tree. Overwhelming Blades debuff now is so Overwhelm's going to stack to 5 instead of 10, so that's getting cut in half. And then Unrelenting Assault applies 1 stack of Overwhelmed instead of 2 per mark of execution consumed. So basically just like lowering the amount of stacks, but also the speed at which you accumulate them. And then now Slayer's Malice affects Execute in addition to Overpower and Raging Blow but the damage increase is reduced to 20% instead of 30%. So that's just the keystone changes going into it. Nothing too insane there. Probably the biggest one I would say is most likely this overwhelm getting cut in half. You don't have to stack all the way up to 10, which is like what we told you to make sure you have Blade Storm at the start of each pack for, is to try to get as many of them and proc your Raging Blows to do Reap the Storm. But with the 4 set for Slayer going away, unless they make that like an Apex talent, which I doubt, that's not even going to really be a concern. The overwhelm will just be like a damage increase. Okay, so here in the class section, since Dragonflight, all 3 warrior specs have been overloaded with cooldowns. You know, you have Thunderous Roar, Spear, or Champion Spear, your Avatar, your Recklessness, your Ravager, your Blade Storm. I mean, you have they're right, you do have so many. The warrior class tree is also focused far more on damage dealing and survival than offering utility, which is great. One thing that I've complained about with warrior for a long time is we don't have a reason to bring us to group. Like, when you see a warrior queue up, you're just like, oh, like, is he good? Like, is he going to do good damage? Because that's really all they bring aside from Battle Shout. Yeah, Battle Shout's nice. Like, the attack, the 5% to attack power is nice, but as a stat stick only, it's just not enough utility to bring you over another. Like, it's not like, oh, we need a warrior so they can do X. You know what I mean? So, really nice that they're thinking about the utility that a warrior can bring. So we're taking a fresh look at the warrior class tree at Midnight and looking to make the tree more interesting. Cool. So we have a couple new talents here, and instead of reading through each of these, we're just going to go through each of the talents on the tree. That was awkward. Sorry. Nice little lottery ad. Can this thing get out of my way? Okay. It was awkward. Okay, so we'll start on the class tree. We're just going to go through node by node. If it's something that was already in the tree before, we'll just kind of say, hey, that's still there. And then if it's something new, then we will chat about it. So, you know, we have our battle stance. We have our defense stance over here. Here we have fast footwork again for the movement speed. War Machine, basically the same as it was before. Leeching Strikes for the extra leech. Thunderclap here. Okay. Impending Victory, you have your Heroic Leap, as well as Bounding Stride here for the increased movement speed and the reduced cooldown on Heroic Leap. So pretty similar. Like this top section of the tree, very cut and dry, and copy paste from before Stormbolt. You got your Second Wind for the passive healing. Frothian Berserker is going to be for Rampage to give you rage back. You have Pain and Gain for the again healing. Here you have Intervene, and then we have something new. Okay, so your Intervene is where you just run to an ally and you can intercept melee and ranged attacks. Cool. Interpose. So we have run at high speeds toward a target location. So I'm guessing you just put a target on the ground where you want to charge to. And to anybody in there within 3 yards. So it's a pretty small section. But they take 30%, or you take 30% of all damage dealt to them for 8 seconds until you take 20% of your maximum health. So it's kind of like a sack from Paladin, except for it's like ground targeted. Like you charge there, and then people there, you take damage from them, but it doesn't do like as much sacrifice. Up to 20% of your maximum health and damage. So but it is still a way that somebody who's just barely dying to a mechanic may get saved, and if you're plenty healthy, which we tend to be, this is a really cool, interesting utility that will be a little different from what most other classes have. So Interpose, pretty interesting. I like to see what they build on from this, but basically charge, intercept damage up to a certain amount, and you're good. So what's nice is that since it's 20% of your maximum health, you shouldn't really like get yourself killed by doing it, but you still could. But for the most part, you should be okay. All right, so we have Shockwave. This is the Crackling Thunder for the increased radius for Thunderclap. That would be good for in like Mountain Thane and stuff. You have your Rallying Cry. So with Rallying Cry, they have another new change coming. So very cool. You give them the extra health, but then you also give them movement speed and leech as well from the way that I read it. And I'll show you just based off what let me close this. Based off what they wrote here. Let's see. Rallying Cry. Oh, that's something I wanted to talk about too. But so you have Battlefield Commander. and we'll talk about that. But I wanted to point it out while we're talking about Rallying Cry. So you have Rallying Cry here, and then I believe it's down here, Battlefield Commander. So your shout, and I'm jumping to this just so that we can stay on the topic of rally. Your shout abilities have an additional effects. So your battle shout will grant you an extra 3% attack power individually. So you give your group 5% when you battle shout. This will give you an extra 3%, which I think is very interesting because they tried to take Mystic Touch for Monk to 8% for everybody, and they reverted it almost immediately because they didn't want physical comps like the other specs other than the monks to be balanced around this 8% buff, because 8% is a lot. Now we'll be giving it to ourselves if we take this, if it ends up being useful, and that 3% will be just for us, and so we won't need to be balanced around it. It's just another talent that we could take. Rallying Cry grants 5% leech and 30% movement speed to all of your allies. So that gives Rally. Now, it is a 3-minute cooldown, so it's pretty long. It's not like you're going to use it just for movement speed, but if you have like a large pulsing area in a boss fight or in a raid boss, whatever, and you need to like have fast movement, this is a really good cooldown to give you max health, leech, and movement speed. I mean, it's like a roar with max health and leech basically. So very interesting, very cool. 30% movement speed. It's not a ton, but it's some. Piercing Howl, the radius is increased by 100%. We'll talk about Piercing Howl here shortly. And then Berserker Shout, radius increased, and Intimidating Shout has cooldown decreased. So that is the Battlefield commander here. And interesting, like, bottom of the tree talent, capstone, or whatever these last road talents are called. We have Overwhelming Rage to give you the extra 30 rage. Spell Reflect, very straightforward. And then here is Honed Reflexes. So it's going to reduce the cooldown of some of your utility abilities by 10%. And then Typical Armor to the Teeth to give you more armor. Now here we have Piercing Howl I wanted to talk about. So Berserker Shout is going to be the same thing as it was before. You just remove fear and whatnot from your group members, including yourself. Piercing Howl, which is previously what just would reduce enemies' movement speed by 70%. Now it's going to give allies that are close to you 30% movement speed, and that is on I believe it's a 30-second cooldown. So very interesting piece of utility. Every 30 seconds you have a 30% movement speed buff. I believe it's a little less than a Windrush totem from Shaman, but it's a very low cooldown, and I find this to be very interesting. I'm excited to, number one, just to be able to cause people to move faster as warrior. That's just awesome. I feel like I can never do things like that. Like, utility sounds great. So this Piercing Howl looks like it will get a lot of use going forward. Intimidating Shout. So here we have release a blood-curdling battle cry, causing all enemies in 8 yards to cower in fear. Disorienting them for 18 seconds. Damage can interrupt the effect. And then if we jump down to here, you have Cacophonous Roar. Intimidating Shout can withstand 200% more damage. So these two together, before, Intimidating Shout would cause the enemies to be feared and run away. Now it's like an incapacitate. So basically they get, it's kind of like an AoE disorient, and then damage will break the effect, but it's something that Warrior has been wanting in order to have more utility, more group AoE CC. Now, to go in hand with that, they did have some other changes. I don't know why that popped up. They did have some other changes that I wanted to talk about. They're changing diminishing returns, and they're changing interrupt duration. So interrupt duration, everybody is going to 5% or 5 seconds on their interrupt. So when you interrupt something, it locks in like for 5 seconds. I'll post that on the screen. But for DR, the way that it read, let me see if I can find it in here. Yeah, so I just wanted to read about this real quick while we're on the topic. So for diminishing returns, they want to make it, I think, more forgiving. So diminishing return categories will reset after 16 seconds was 18 seconds. So 2 seconds off of the reset on the categories. Creatures will no longer be immune to stun effects after 3 applications of the effect. The duration of the stun effect will continue to diminish in half upon each application until they reach 1 1/16th of the duration, where it will remain until 16 seconds have passed. So before, when you got into DR, you would, like, let's say I shockwaved and nothing would happen because they'd just be DR'd to not to zero and you just couldn't stun them anymore. Now it'll still stun them, but it'll be for 1/16th of the duration. So it could just be like a very quick interrupt, and then they try to cast again. If I'm reading that right, that sounds very nice for like the pug groups where you're not communicating in voice chat and you're overlapping lots of CCs and causing things to get DR'd very quickly. I think this will help in like the mid, upper mid, or even a lower mid keys where people are having trouble with overlaps like that. And so I'm very interested to see how that goes. All right, let's keep going through here. We are getting towards being done. So we got double time for the 2 charges. Over here was Rumbling Earth. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little. Reinforced Plates. This is from the old tree as well. Here we have Rend and Blood and Thunder. So it looks like they're bringing Rend back to have the bleeds on enemies for Fury. So this reads as lash out with your weapon, striking all targets within 8 yards for physical damage, instantly, and wounding them for extra damage for 15 seconds. And then the other is that Thunderclap will apply Rend. So I find that to be pretty interesting. Not sure how it'll play out, but having more bleeds sounds cool to me. Here we have Resonant Voice, so the effects of your shouts last 20% longer. I don't think that this one's crazy. 20% on these like low duration shouts isn't really crazy, but it looks like we don't really have a choice but to take it if you want to continue down the. Well, you can go through double time, so yeah, we'll see how this one plays out as far as being useful. Concussive blows, so reduces your pummel time, gives you extra damage when you kick, entices you to kick. I love this talent. So barbaric training just gives you more whirlwind damage. Slam as well, which is currently useless, but we'll see if they do something with it. This here, cruel strikes. We have this before. Increases the crit damage of execute and your crit strike chance. Two-handed, dual wield, or one-handed weapon specialization. So for Fury, while dual wielding, your damage is increased by 3 or 6% with 2 points, and movement speed increased too. So while we're talking about this one, the dual wield specialization thing, I wanted to talk about single-minded Fury. So Archie from the Warrior Discord wrote this post of the future of single-minded Fury for Fury, and what that is, if you don't know, is that we have a talent currently, which is such a waste of space, that you can be able to spec into 2 one-handed weapons instead of dual wield, and they like increase your attack speed, and like make you move faster and stuff like that. It looks as if from the description of what's being done away with for Fury, they did away with the single-minded Fury, and they've now made it so that you can just transmog one-handed weapons onto your two-handed that you're using. So this will make happy the people that want to run around with 2 one-handed weapons because they think they look cool. Now, the people that like actually playing single-minded Fury, for whatever reason that might be, they may not be happy about the change, but most people should be covered on the fact that now you can use one-handers as transmog, but you won't have to worry about spending talent points to do it effectively. So very interesting. I thought that was pretty cool because on my warrior wish list, that was something I said was do something with single-minded Fury, and to see that they're doing something with it is at least good to me. So next we have Deft Strikes. So this is a new one. This is going to, instead of Deft Experience, it's going to be Deft Strikes. So mastery increased by 1 or 2% with 2 points, and auto attack damage increased by 50 or 100%. Over here, we have haste increased by 1 or 2%, and your auto attack critical strikes increase your your auto attack speed by 10-20% for 10 seconds. So a lot of emphasis on auto attacks and auto attack speed here, which I think is interesting. Not sure what direction that's going in, but yeah, you have sidearm here for your auto attacks, hurling the weapons. So that kind of just goes hand in hand with these here. And then retaliation. So when you take any damage from an enemy within melee range, you have a chance to strike that enemy for 886 physical damage. So this is going to obviously be something more for Prot, but sidearm will continue to be our go-to. And with auto attacks seeming like they're going to be getting sped up a lot and also doing more damage, we should hopefully see more procs of sidearm as well. Here you have your Wrecking Throw and your Shattering Throw, which are pretty darn optional, which is nice, at least here. And then Crushing Force, so Bloodthirst deals an additional 5% damage and deals 5% increased crit strike damage. So some emphasis on crit here, which is nice. And then Last Stand is going to be something mainly for prot. It's in the prot tree already, so it just gives you more health. Well, actually, the way this reads, when your health is brought below 20%, you marshal your inner strength to increase your maximum health by 30%. So it's more, I think, Last Stand right now, because I only play prot here and there. Right now, you have to use it, and it just increases your max health. This reads as when you get brought below a certain amount, you then increase your max health for a certain amount and heal yourself for that. So that's interesting. It's kind of like, it's not a cheat death, obviously, but it's like a try to cheat death. And then Anger Management, same thing as before, way down here in the bottom left. So every 20 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown of Recklessness by 1 second. One thing to note here, per strike, because Rampage costs 80 rage, so every 20 rage is 1 second, so it's 4 seconds for Recklessness. The thing to note here is that it does not read that it will reduce your Blade Storm anymore. So very important and an interesting change, which I'm not sure if people are happy about. I haven't done a lot of reading, but it's going to reduce the cooldown of your Recklessness, but it's not going to touch your Blade Storm. And then lastly, we have Champion Spear, because we did already talk about Battlefield Commander. So Champion Spear, some interesting news released on this recently. It looks like it's going to be, your spear is going to be the same size, right? But the target indicator for where you throw the spear is going to act like a sigil of chains from Demon Hunter, where it'll pull anything that's in that larger circle into the smaller circle spear. So this could be some very nice utility for getting, ads grouped together. And I think there might have been some testing released here recently, but seeing more information on this is going to be like super important. I cannot wait to see, because if that's the way that it reads, sign me up for Spear, because that's some nice utility and would make us very useful, especially in Mythic Plus. So, okay, let's go ahead and talk about the Fury tree. Not much has really changed in Slayer and Mountain Thane, so I'm just going to do Fury, and then we'll talk from there. So here at the top, you have Bloodthirst. It's a no-brainer. You're taking Bloodthirst. One thing that you'll notice among all of these talents is, like all of your builder talents, is the rage that is generated by them is slightly lower than what it currently is. So you're going to be building up rage slower. I don't know if that's going to translate to like Rampage hitting harder, because it's going to take a little bit more effort in builders to get to your spender, or how they're going to do that. But they are generating less than currently. One thing that reads interesting on this Bloodthirst that I noticed and thought was cool is currently Bloodthirst has, I believe, a 30% chance to enrage you when you use it. You know how, like, when your enrage is about to fall off, but you don't have enough rage for Rampage, so you just throw a Bloodthirst and hope, like, give me that 30% chance to refresh my enrage so I can keep blasting. Well, now that 30% is going to be 65%, and so there'll be a much higher probability that you're going to reset your enrage, which I think is interesting. I like that. I mean, that's cool. I like that. It sounds like I'll want to use Bloodthirst more. Okay, so we have our Raging Blow here, and then we have our Improved Raging Blow. Over here, Frenzied Enrage, and Powerful Enrage are back. And then we have Enraged Regen. All right. Over here we have Fresh Meat. So your first Bloodthirst against the target will always enrage you. And then we come down here to the left and we have Focused in Chaos. So different looking icon here in this filler, but this is Focused in Chaos. So your auto attacks no longer miss. Same thing and as it was before. Sudden Death. So your attacks have a chance to reset the cooldown of Execute, make it usable on any target. And then here, they've combined Warpaint and Invigorating Fury. If you remember before, they were kind of like side by side, two different choices. Well, now they've just made them one. I think Warpaint will be like a no-brainer always. I never used Invigorating Fury, and compared to Warpaint, it's like an obvious choice to me. So, we'll see. Improved Execute, so same thing, gives you 20 rage, no longer costs rage to use it, sorry. Improved Whirlwind, so they still have this here where they're still making us take 2 different nodes for Whirlwind. Um, but you have your first one does give you the 4 single target, like it lets you do your next 4 single target abilities rather than just 2. Um, and then you have Meat Cleaver for deals 100% additional damage when it hits 3 or more targets. And you have no stacks of improved Whirlwind. It would be nice if like that last bit there was like in case if I'm out of globals and just need to refresh it. It sucks that you're gonna take like a damage hit if you refresh your Whirlwind stacks because it's the only global you have available. If you refresh them at 1 stack left, so I would like to see that changed if I'm reading that right. But yeah, that's how Meat Cleaver is gonna work. Here you have Cruelty. While enraged, Raging Blow deals 20% increased damage. Cool. Some Raging Blow stat buffs. Your obvious Rampage here. Improved Bloodthirst, so just increasing the Bloodthirst damage and the crit strike damage. Vicious Contempt, so same thing, kind of like an Execute phase Bloodthirst buffer here. Cold Steel Hot Blood, it's going to give the Gushing Wound and also leech some health, so that'll apply some more bleeds on top of the rend that you're already having. And then you're also going to see about Deep Wounds here shortly, which we'll get to in just a second. Scent of Blood, Rampage increases the damage of your next Bloodthirst by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. So that is interesting how that might play out. Hack and Slash, so this is going to be, again, another modifier for Rampage to help buff Raging Blow. Blood Craze, so Raging Blow increases the crit strike of your next Bloodthirst. This is what we were tracking with the weak aura for a while when we wanted to only use Bloodthirst above like 85% crit chance. And then we come down here to Rampaging Ruins. So while Improved Whirlwind is active, so it's this up here. While Improved Whirlwind is active, Rampage strikes all targets in front of you for a certain amount of physical damage. Deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. So I thought this was very interesting. I don't know how this is going to play out, but this makes it look like much of our general rotation, since we're always pressing Rampage like crazy. When taking this, when you're cleaving your Rampage, it's going to do soft capped 8 target damage. I mean, that's crazy. So if I'm reading that right, that sounds great. That sounds like addressing the fact that our only real ability to do high target damage was like Reap the Storm and like Blade Storm, really. So I find that to be very interesting. Wrath and Fury, just more Raging Blow, like amping. Massacre is just going to increase the health threshold that you can use Execute. Recklessness here. So what you will notice about this, instead of increasing your rage generation by 50 or by 100%, it's now 50%. So again, building up rage much slower than before. I'm just wondering if maybe this is because of how Rampage will play with Rampaging Ruin. They don't want you to be able to spam Rampage like crazy on eight soft cap targets. So maybe this is why they're going for like slower rage generation. Deep wounds, so now your execute will inflict deep wounds on the target. So this is going to be a bleed to keep track of. And it also says if this stack effect is reapplied, any remaining damage to the rend or the deep wounds from before will be added to the new deep wounds. So execute, hoping to feel like a really good button to press like over and over and over in that phase of execute. Bloodborne, so targets critically struck by Bloodthirst take 20% additional damage from your bleeds. So this is just a bleed buff here. Bloodthirst crit strikes increase the damage of Raging Blow by 10%. So this is going to help Bloodthirst use then correspond to also incentivizing Raging Blow use. Here's Theft Experience over on this tree. So Bloodthirst chance to enrage you is increased by 10 or 20%, and if you're enraged, Bloodthirst extends your enrage by half a second or a second, same way that it read before. And then Rampage increases your haste here on Frenzy by 1 or 2% for 12 seconds, so Frenzy staying the same, Critical Thinking staying the same, Raging Blow buff, and crit strike damage increase for Raging Blow. Down here we have Surge of Adrenaline. This is something new. When Raging Blow resets its own cooldown, your auto attack damage and speed is increased by 30%. So this is kind of like touching back on that other tree of auto attacks getting buffs. So Raging Blow is resetting its cooldowns all the time, so this is gonna really help. Like you're just gonna be just auto attacking like crazy. A very interesting one here. Not sure how many people are liking it versus not, but Odin's Fury and Bladestorm getting put on the same choice node. Um, so you're gonna have to pick one or the other. uh, Bladestorm, now that it's not getting reduced by Rampage, like the cooldown's going to be more finite. You'll still be able to reduce it with your executes or sudden deaths, but overall, you're just gonna have to make the choice on Odin's Fury versus Bladestorm here. Executioner's Wrath, so execute generates 5 additional rage, so bringing it to 25 rage when used, and increases the damage of Rampage by 10% for 4 seconds. So this is making execute phase sound really interesting, and also making execute in AoE feel really good, because especially when you're in large targets, you'll still want to use it to get that Rampage that's going to do a soft capped at 8 cleave during improved whirlwind from this here, an extra 10% damage. I mean, yeah, it sounds like they're trying to make execute more attractive in like an AoE and of course the execute phase scenario. And just a couple more to go over here. So Rage Drinker, Bloodthirst, critical strikes restore twice as much health and enrage you for 2 seconds. So just some more modifiers that help make crit like an attractive stat here. Kill or be killed. So this one, when you would sustain fatal damage, you instead fly into an unstoppable rage, becoming unkillable and immune to movement impairing effects for 8 seconds as you seek revenge. So if you kill your killer, your would-be killer, you emerge triumphant for your blind rage with at least 20% of your max health intact. If you're not victorious, you die. So this is kind of like, oh shoot, I died. Like let me go and like go crazy and try to kill whoever else. This is probably PvP-esque. I don't see many practical implementations for this in like a PvE content, but hey, I mean, maybe. Then you have Avatar versus Reckless Abandon. Reckless Abandon, I believe, reads the same way that it was before, but with how bleeds are being used right now, and like you have Cold Steel Hot Blood, you have Deep Wounds, you have Rend, you have your bleeds from the Cold Steel Hot Blood and whatnot. On top of that, with Bloodbath bleeds, maybe this ends up being good with Reckless Abandon. I'm not sure, but the alternative would be Avatar. So Avatar was put on the Fury tree instead of on like the regular warrior tree. And then lastly, we have Unbridled Ferocity, which seems very, very weird to be a bottom of the tree talent node. Um, I'm not sure. This one, it's only a 6% chance to grant it like normal, and I never thought this talent node was really all that great. So interesting to see it there. I do know that with the new talents, they're going to be giving us 3 extra points in order to use on like whatever other talents we want in the first. I believe it's in the first 2 node sections, so that'll give us some more flexibility, like up and about. And then we're also getting 3 Apex talents in our Keystone talent area, like Slayer or Mountain Thane. So very interested to see what those end up being. But overall, this is like the talent changes, what I'm looking forward to, what I think some of it might play out to be. Very interested to see the changes that continue to come. I just wanted to kind of put this video out there and get my opinion out so we can have a discussion, because I think that's super important. And hopefully we all get the iteration of Fury that we're looking for, because I've loved it in this season and I'm really hoping that I will love it in the next season. So I really appreciate you all for watching, and keep a lookout for the new videos coming. I'm working on Mythic Plus stuff and raid stuff, but just really trying to get settled into the new spot. So bear with me and enjoy this video. I hope you did. Like, comment, and subscribe if you liked it, and let me know what you thought. Feel free to join the Discord, and I will definitely see you all shortly. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm out. Peace.